college athletics, i.e. football, going forward like crazy. And that's another thing. It's only a matter of time before somebody from football decides he wants to go back to college. Not from the NFL per se, but from Arena League, Canadian League, or perhaps from an NFL training or a practice roster. Let's say some guy signs a contract, doesn't get drafted, signs a contract with the NFL, and is put on a practice roster. We're getting into the season, and he's like, I could be playing somewhere making more money via NIL or whatnot. I think I want to go back to college. And let's say there's a college program that needs a quarterback or whatever. Their quarterback gets injured. So they start looking at practice rosters in the NFL. It's not outside the realm of possibility. And this Charles Bediako thing could open the door for that. That's why we have to pay attention to it and be ready for whatever chaos it may bring. And there's plenty of chaos already in college athletics. Just ask Dabo Swinney and the people up at Clemson. And, oh, by the way, we've got a little news on that as well. And we're going to dive deeper into it later in the hour. The whole, did Ole Miss tamper, didn't Ole Miss tamper? I believe they did. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there. I believe they did. Dabo apparently has receipts. They wouldn't have felt confident about having a case against Ole Miss if they weren't 100% sure they could back up everything they were saying. I'm just wondering what's next. Now, here is what we do know, and this is from The Athletic this morning. The NCAA is looking into the tampering accusations levied against Ole Miss by Dabo Swinney. That's pretty significant. He'll be able to put all that evidence that he had, that big, remember that the stack of papers he had during his media conference last week? He'll be able to hand that over. Here you go. And they'll look into it. But I have so many more questions, though, regardless of what happens with the NCAA. If the NCAA does something to Ole Miss, if the NCAA decides, oh, well, there's nothing really here, or if the NCAA turns a blind eye, whatnot, whatever. I still have so many questions about this. And I'm just dying to get answers. And not just from the Clemson perspective, but from the Ole Miss perspective. And from the conference perspective, from the ACC, from the SEC. There are so many things unresolved with this one specific case that it's driving me nuts. We've got John Blau from the Post and Courier. He's going to come aboard at 12:30. I'm going to ask him. What's the latest? What's he hearing out of Clemson? I'm going to ask him what's next for Clemson. And I also want to get his take on how should Ole Miss be reacting to this? What should they be doing to kind of keep from looking like a bunch of slime balls, as if they didn't already? I mean, birds of a feather flock together, the whole Lane Kiffin deal. And you would have thought that him going out the way he did would have kept them on the straight and narrow, at least in the short term. Wrong. We'll bounce those questions off John Blau when he joins us at 12:30. We've got a little NFL news, and this literally just popped up, and I find it just fascinating. Apparently, the Buffalo Bills are going to promote Joe Brady, the head coach. Now, when I think of Joe Brady, I think of one of the young up-and-coming offensive minds in all of football, not just the NFL, but college. Remember, he was the guy who got a lot of credit for pushing that LSU offense up to another level, for figuring out how to unlock the greatness of Joe Burrow and all the other wonderful parts of that offense that year, 2019 LSU national champions. Now, it didn't work out great with the Panthers, but he's done okay up in Buffalo. It's very, very creative with some of the concepts and schemes they've been running. And it helps when you have a guy like Josh Allen. But is he head coach material? That's the question. Not everybody is a head coach. Fact. Some guys are good at being a coordinator. Some guys are good at just being a position coach. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It takes a different breed of cat to be a head coach. And not all head coaches are great coordinators or assistants. What bucket is Joe Brady going to be put in? Can he be the guy who makes the change from being a coordinator to a head coach? Can he be the guy that pushes the Bills a little further? Talk about underwhelming. I mean, that's a team that had Super Bowl aspirations, once again falling short. And you've got a generational quarterback, arguably the greatest quarterback in the history of that franchise. I'll throw that out there. I know Jim Kelly's a Hall of Famer, but Josh Allen, I think his skill set's better. I also think he has fewer weapons than Jim Kelly had. And yet, they're not going to Super Bowls. At least Jim Kelly got them to the Super Bowls. They didn't win any. They famously lost 4 in a row. Josh Allen hasn't been able to do that. How much of it's his fault? I don't know. How much of it was the head coach's fault? I don't know. We'll get some answers, though, this fall. Some other news to get to. College basketball. And we're going to talk college basketball with our friend Lulu Kesson of the Greenville News during the 1 o'clock hour. But it's really a great season, especially on the men's side, because there is so much parity in men's basketball right now. So much parity. And I'll say it again, and I've said it 100 times. The transfer portal is the best thing that happened to college basketball since the shot clock. I mean that. It's elevated rosters all around the country. It's created parity like we've really never seen in the sport. I don't think it's a coincidence, and this is an example at home. I don't think it's a coincidence that Brad Brownell's best 4-year run with Clemson is happening right now, and it also coincides with the advent of the transfer portal. He's able to go out and build rosters. And he's not out chasing points per game. He's not out chasing 5 stars who are a little disgruntled because they're not getting enough playing time, or 5 stars who are looking to cash in more somewhere else through NIL or whatnot. But he's able to go out and get talent that aligns with his system, his culture, and what he wants his team to represent. That's why he's having the best 4-year run of his career. And he's been at Clemson, since 2010? Not a coincidence that this is also the best 4-year run. Happens to coincide when the portal began running wide open. Also coincides when Billy Donlin came aboard as an assistant coach. Billy Donlin's just a fantastic coach. Also a fantastic assessor of talent. He's able to leverage the portal, find those, a lot of them, diamonds in the rough to a certain extent, and say, you know what, this guy would fit in with what we do. That guy would fit in with what we do. If we put that guy with that guy, then we could do this, this, and this. It's a big reason why Clemson's had the second most ACC wins over the last few years of any program in that conference. Portal, not a bad thing when it comes to college basketball. And if you look at the AP Top 25 right now, and I'm an AP Top 25 basketball voter, you could take probably, I'll say this, you could take the top 10 teams arbitrarily. We'll say 10. Could probably go deeper. 11, 12, 13. Put all the names in a hat, pull them out, and just randomly, one at a time, line them up, 1, 2, 3. And whatever you come up with, you couldn't really argue about. You couldn't argue with. You couldn't really say, oh, man, that's horrible. How could you have these rankings? That's how narrow the gaps are right now. There's so much parity. And I know Arizona, number 1 team in the country, 20-0. I would be okay if Michigan were number 1. I would be okay if UConn were number 1. I truly would, because of the parity. And how can we not like that? We talk about sports being sick. There's so much wrong with college athletics. It's broken. It's this and that. It's not broken. We just need better definitions of what we can and can't do, what is allowed, what's not allowed. Some caps here and there. Guidance, leadership. That's what it all comes down to. There's no leadership. And we've screamed as loud as we can for decades about, well, we need a commissioner of football. We need somebody with unilateral power. Yeah, that would be great. But it would also be good if the leaders that we do have could work hand in hand, side by side. Don't have to be all kumbaya around a campfire, but at least try to head into the same direction. What instead you have are leaders looking out for their own interest, or let's be magnanimous here, looking out for the interest of their constituents, that being their conference members. We've got a free-for-all. And it's a shame because the sport, especially basketball and football, it's so good right now, but we're spending so much time twisting over the bad stuff. I'm looking at this last night. Arizona, number 1 team in the country, playing BYU number 13. It's a fantastic basketball game. 86-83, Arizona wins this game. It's like Bizarro World. BYU, good in basketball. And if BYU would have won, could have made an argument top 5. Nebraska is 20-0 in basketball. And I would argue that if they beat Michigan tonight, they'd be the number 1 team in the country. By the way, that's 7:00 tip-off on Peacock. I will complain about that, all these different streaming platforms. It's just I have a hard time finding things. That Nebraska-Michigan game on Peacock, 7:00 tip-off Eastern time. But the point is this. If I can sit here and say Nebraska beats Michigan tonight, they could be the number 1 team in the country next week. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. And I don't think it's a one-off thing. Indiana football has proven that. Indiana doing this quick turnaround in 2 years, going from awful to relevant to immortal, speaks to the system that if you have the wherewithal and the money, you can make good things happen. And don't fall for the narrative that, well, it's only the rich places and everybody's got the money in college. I don't want to hear that. There are boosters everywhere. There are people with deep pockets everywhere. If Indiana could do it, and I know they have Mark Cuban and this and that, but everybody's got people like that. And if you don't have that one person, you got a bunch of people who are on that next tier who can also pass the hat, pass the collection plate, and get enough cash to put their teams to where they want to be. But do you have the wherewithal to do it? Do you have the conviction to make it happen? These are some of the topics we'll talk about throughout the program. But really going to dive into this Dabo thing on the other side. I'm going to break it down a little more. Then we got John Blau of the Post and Courier joining us at 12:30. Get the latest from the upstate, see what they're doing, what's next, and what can we expect. It's Scott Hamilton filling in. You're listening to the Halftime Show on 107.5 The Game.
Game Network, Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, and our new affiliate in Charleston.
This hour of in-show listening on 107.5 The Game is sponsored by QC Kinetics in West Columbia, the non-surgical regenerative orthopedic specialists of the Midlands. Request your consultation today at qckinetics.com.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet studio. Herndon Chevrolet is your hometown dealer. Stop by today or shop online 24/7 at herndonchevy.com.
It is Bill Gunner from Mid-State Roofing, where for over 30 years, Mid-State Roofing has been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And it is that history, those 30 years, that is your assurance that their professionals will get the job done for you. And not only that, but they'll get the job done in a safe, pleasing, and timely manner for you and your operation. Whether it's your home or your business, Mid-State Roofing is there to make sure that they keep your operation dry and running long into the future. But most importantly, they are there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You heard that right. You can give them a phone call at 10 p.m.
Yeah, but you're being overpowered by the spots.
Point. Mid-State Roofing has got an on-call technician ready to receive your phone call, help you with a maintenance
contract, a little better.
Any roof leakage that you have. So give them a phone call.
I think you were trying to talk to me during that segment, but I couldn't make it out.
19 and tell them Bill Gunner says.
Running a business means wearing multiple hats. So if you're like me, you probably started out using your personal phone, taking client calls and texts.
I can't hear you, Dave. I'm sorry.
As my business grew, I needed something smarter. That's when I switched to Quo, the #1 business phone system. Quo works right on your phone or computer. No carrying.
I texted you John Blau's number.
Just one easy app you can try for free. Your team can
And
share
then in
one
this
number
next
and
segment,
handle
I'll
calls
call
and
on Dabo
together, like
tampering
a shared inbox.
clip.
Any teammate can jump into the conversation, so customers get faster responses. And Quo's AI assistant summarizes your calls and responds to customers 24/7, so you never miss a lead or opportunity. All this starts at just $15 a month. That's basically 2 coffees. You can even keep your current business phone number. Find out why 90,000 businesses trust Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. Try Quo for free at quo.com/sports. That's quo.com/sports to try Quo free. QUO.com/SPORTS.
Hey everyone, it's Nikki, manager of Kreger Showrooms Columbia, formerly The Nest. That's right, we have rebranded our name, but we still offer a wide variety of affordable products in plumbing, lighting, and appliances. Graham, Mandy, Rachel, and Brian will be happy to help you find exactly what you are looking for to make you love your home. We look forward to giving you the attention you deserve and provide you with exceptional customer service. Kreger Showrooms Columbia, located at 1331 Gadsden Street in the Vista. Come see us today.
Hey guys, it's Jay Phillips for the Men's Clinic. You're not feeling like yourself as you get older? You're wondering why? Don't wait for it to change or go away. Instead, see Dr. Dan Balknight and his team at the Men's Clinic. You'll have a one-on-one consultation that gets to the root of the issues and gets you back to feeling like you used to. No such thing as a one-size-fits-all treatment at the Men's Clinic. Call them up for a free consultation, 803-875-MENS, and learn more online at themensclinicsc.com.
Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. Visit trustandwill.com for details.
My dad and I were always close, but some things we just didn't talk about, like his will. After he was gone, we found out he didn't have one, and it created a lot of stress during a time of grief.
Creating a will can be hard to think about, but avoiding it can lead to greater difficulty for the people you love. That's why Trust and Will makes estate planning simple. Create a will online in as little as 30 minutes.
Now, I have a will in place to make sure my loved ones...
Dave, we could probably turn these spots off. I mean,
it was easy and affordable.
I kind of know when we have to be back.
Knowing my wishes are clear.
Trust and Will. Get 20% off when you visit trustandwill.com/game. That's
I hear you, but it's really hard because of the spots.
20% off. Trustandwill.com/G.
Ooh, that's good. I hear nothing now.
Okay, you can come back now.
Welcome back. Scott Hamilton in on the halftime show, 107.5 The Game. We got John Blau, the Post and Courier, joining us about 12:30. Here's something interesting. This happened this morning. The Darian Mensah case up at Duke. And all these things are seeming to come together. The Bediako thing, the Forelli thing, and this Darian Mensah situation. Duke and Darian Mensah, I'm reading release right now, reached a settlement that formalizes his transfer from the institution. So presumably he's headed to Miami to be the next quarterback of the Hurricanes. So, good on them, I guess. Man, what a bitter pill for Manny Diaz. Especially how this all played out, because he went into the portal at the 11th hour after already having a deal in place with Duke. And now he's going to Miami, which kicked Manny Diaz to the curb. Just not a good situation all the way around. Here's the part that gives me real heartburn. The signature at the bottom of this release, and I assume it's the people who sent it out, it's his agency. Young Money APAA. Young Money APAA. That's a sure that's a credible organization. Young Money APAA, dating all the way back to 2023. It's like Shearson Lehman Brothers or something. Young Money APAA. Well, either way, they got their client to where he wanted to be. He's headed to the U. This is what's going to happen, though. This is what's going to happen until we have a model with collectively bargained rules Very similar to what they have in the NFL and the NBA. If you sign something, you are beholden to that. If you sign a contract, that contract tells you where to go, when to go, and what time to be there. You can't just flippantly get out of it. And in this situation, it's a settlement. Duke's like, you know what? We want this over with. He don't want to be here. We don't want him here. He can go. And good on Duke to a certain degree for being self-aware enough that this is toxic. Now, what do they do for a quarterback? I don't know. Do they go and get somebody else's? Presumably, probably. That's the bad part about this. There'll be a trickle-down effect to Darian Mensah deciding he wanted to get a bag with the Hurricanes. It's going to happen over and over and over. And it's comparable to what happened at Clemson. It is. Now, the NCAA, and again, this is the report this morning through The Athletic, confirming that it's looking into the accusations. And Dabo didn't hold back, man. I mean, he laid out the timeline. He said, this is what happened. He named names. That was the biggest thing, naming the names. And he didn't hold back. And good on him. And whether you like him, whether you detest him, you have to admire the fact that he did this. Now, should more coaches do this? You would think. You would think. But can they? Because every coach that does something like this puts themselves up for public display, makes themselves vulnerable to the possibility that they might be exposed. Obviously, Dabo doesn't feel that way. And he doubled down. He had his receipts, named names, and didn't let it rip. It's worth revisiting his definition of this whole thing. Dave, can you play that first clip, please?
Is that Dabo tampering or the other one?
Yeah, Dabo tampering.
And I'm just going to just say this. This is like there's tampering and then there's blatant tampering. You know, tampering 101 is when you're talking to kids who aren't in the portal. Tampering 201 is when you've already negotiated the deal with the kids not in the portal. Tampering 301 is when you got a kid who's gone in the portal, signed somewhere, moved there, gone to classes, and you're texting them while they're in class. That's like a whole nother level of tampering. And it's total hypocrisy because all this is going on while they, on the other side, are trying to fight their defensive end from going in the portal. They have accused publicly others of tampering with their roster and their players while they are over here tampering. All right, so this is just a really sad state of affairs, and it's, to me, we have a broken system. And if there are no consequences for tampering, then we have no rules and we have no governance. It's really just that simple. Okay?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It used to be when a kid got to class, you could exhale. You could just, okay, we got him. He's here. Okay. You know, back in the day, you'd send in your letter of intent, the whole fax machine deal. You sign it, send it in. Okay, we got him. It's step one. Now we got to get him on campus. Okay. Comes to campus. He's on campus, got a campus email, having lunch in the cafeteria. Okay, let's worry about ball now. Nope. Doesn't matter anymore. This kid's going to class. I wonder if he had purchased books. Had it gotten to that point? He had purchased books. What does he do with those books? Can some other student at Clemson now get a deal on books by contacting Luke Ferrelli? Maybe they go on to Craigslist or some kind of meeting place site for students, and they're selling books, trading books, swapping books. I'm just throwing that out there for anybody that's listening that might have a student at Clemson or be a student at Clemson. If you have these classes Luke Ferrelli was apparently in, you might be able to get a deal on textbooks. Just throwing that out there. Here's another thing, and this shouldn't be lost in all this. And let me preface it by saying this. Dabo was Dabo during all this. Defiant, adamant. He did his whole thing, and this time he actually had paperwork to back him up. Okay, good. That's great. That's fantastic. Graham Neff, the athletic director, sitting to his left, to Dabo's left, very, very matter of fact, very self-aware, which I thought was huge, being forward and saying, you know what, we're also part of the problem by sanctioning a system that is broken or at least doesn't have guardrails. Good on Graham Neff and the way they handled it. I thought that was a lot of class. But if you go to the Clemson website, the Clemson football website, you go to Luke Farrelly's bio. He's still on there. He's got his picture. Because I presume anybody that's ever strapped on a helmet or gone to a workout or maybe gone to class while you're a member of the football team, I don't know what the definition might be. But they've got a page. And if you click on the bio, what comes up? Dabo's press conference. Next level trolling, and to a certain degree, next level pettiness, but I think it's well deserved in this case. God bless the staffer who did that. But here's what I'm wondering, though. Two things, and these are questions we'll ask John Blau, the Post and Courier, when he joins us at the bottom of the hour. What's next for Clemson? I have to think there's some kind of legal action that has to be taken. There has to be. Is this no different than some kind of contractual interference of an asset? Because Luke Farrelly was basically kind of their property, maybe? He was on scholarship there. He was beholden to play for them, presumably. Can they get damages of some sort? There's a legal mind out there that I'm sure is already working their way around this, trying to get in on this case. I would love to hear your thoughts. Hit me up on X at Scott8Sports. But here's the bigger question, because, A, I have no doubt that Clemson's going to try to get restitution. But what's happening at Ole Miss? We haven't heard a peep from Ole Miss other than something that could be interpreted as trolling from Pete Golding on social media. He tweeted out a picture of a dolphin, which I think was supposed to represent a shark after Dabo went public. He ain't like his former boss when it comes to social media trolling. Pete Golding's got a few things to learn when it comes to that. He's no Eddie Haskell compared, Lane Kiffin is the Eddie Haskell of college football. Pete Golding is the fat kid on that show, not Beaver, but the other one, Wally. That was my dad's show. I'm dating myself. But what's Ole Miss doing about this? Are they talking about it internally? Has Pete Golding been being reprimanded?
30 seconds.
These are questions I have, and I'm going to dive deeper into it later in the hour because this is more than a Pete Golding thing. This is more than an Ole Miss thing. This is a big deal. We'll bounce it around with John Blau, the Post and Courier, on the other side. You're listening to the Halftime Show, 107.5 The Game.
Okie doke, I'll go ahead and call him.
You're the man, Dave.
That's the least I can do.
Hey, if you want to put the spots on and then turn them off with like a minute before or 30 before.
Okay, we'll try that.
I could keep in rhythm.
Did you get them now?
Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years, Mid-State Roofing has been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. You heard that right. For 30 years, long time, but they've done it because of incredible customer service. That's right. Being there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because unless you're aware of something I'm not, leaks can't tell time. They don't know what time it happened. So a leak might occur at your home or your business at midnight, at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. Well, guess what? Mid-State Roofing is there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, ready to take your phone call. 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. That's how you can reach them. Again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You'll speak with an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee. So wherever you're at in this great state, give Mid-State Roofing a call today. You know what they say. If you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek.
Hi, I'm attorney Michael Jeffcoat. Let's press pause for a second. No lawyer can guarantee the outcome of your injury case. Nobody. And I'm not going to either. But here's something I will guarantee. If you hire the Jeffcoat firm after a car wreck, we'll do right by you. And if you're not completely satisfied in the first 30 days, you'll owe us absolutely nothing, and we can part as friends right then. That's the Jeffcoat no-fee guarantee. Call 803-200-2000.
Responsible attorney Michael Jeffcoat, 1333 Main Street, Columbia.
Hey Gamecocks, this is Ben Cato, third generation owner of Cato's Power Equipment. Are you interested in upgrading your lawnmower and saving some serious money? We've got our entire Gravely commercial lineup marked at 20% off MSRP. Take advantage of some serious preseason savings on some of the industry's best zero-turn and stand-on mowers. Cato's Power Equipment is Columbia's home for the tools you need to maintain your turf. Don't spend more on your mower. Come to Cato's Power Equipment.
Cooler weather is coming, which means more time spent in your home with family and friends. Make sure your home is ready. At AAA Heating and Air, home comfort is their top priority. Schedule a seasonal maintenance appointment to get your heating and cooling system in prime condition. And speaking of spending more time indoors, ask about AAA Heating and Air's indoor air quality products that eliminate odors, remove allergens, and can even reduce the spread of some airborne viruses while you sleep. Picture this. You're watching a nail-biter game, food's in the oven, and suddenly everything goes dark. Don't let storms and power outages ruin your plans.
Out
Get a
before
free
45,
consultation
right, Dave?
For a whole home standby generator with easy financing.
Yeah.
Join the AAA Comfort Club for added discounts and priority scheduling. Call AAA Heating and Air at 803.
Yes, that is correct.
What do we got? 30?
Yeah, about 30 seconds.
Cool. I got a little stopwatch running.
Jim Rome podcast. Dude, Jim Rome, listen now. Clone.
Welcome back to the halftime show. Dabo calls it tampering 301. I think it's more like grad level tampering or maybe postgraduate tampering. In fact, if you're going to be a doctor in tampering. Either way, the NCAA now looking into Clemson's allegations against Ole Miss with regards to the Luke Farrelly fiasco. We've not heard anything from Ole Miss. We're not sure what Clemson's going to do going forward, but maybe we'll get a little clarity from our friend John Blau, the Post and Courier. John, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. What are you hearing at Clemson regarding the latest with the Luke Farrelly fiasco?
Intro him again.
Have we lost John?
I'm here.
Oh, there you are, John. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I didn't hear you guys for a second there.
Well, it's okay. What are you hearing at Clemson, the latest of the Farrelly mess?
I don't know if there's actually anything really new. Obviously, they dropped all the bombs on Friday. We obviously know that they've submitted their complaint to the NCAA. The NCAA has confirmed that they've received the complaint, that they'll investigate any allegations of tampering. There was a slightly, I don't know if it's a silly thing, but I found on Luke Farrelly still has his online bio, and Clemson has updated his bio to say, click here for a timeline of Luke Farrelly's time at Clemson. And if you click on it, it is Dabo Swinney's 27-minute going off on the timestamps of exactly what happened to Luke Farrelly as far as the tampering with Ole Miss. So not a whole lot, but obviously we're waiting for Ole Miss response, maybe a fuller NCAA response, but I don't think we'll get that. But mostly just kind of seeing how this all unfolds from here on out.
Yeah, Clemson hasn't won a national title in a while, but that was some championship level trolling. I mean, I thought that was absolutely fantastic. Whoever had the wherewithal to do that, man, God bless him. I thought that was fantastic. John, let's say this, though. Let's say the NCAA does its due diligence. It goes through the investigation, and it does decide that this was pretty blatant case of tampering. Are you aware, or are you schooled, or are you savvy in what could possibly be levied against Ole Miss? Can they do something to Ole Miss? What kind of sanctions are in play here?
Yeah, I mean, I think I heard Pete Thamel, I think on ESPN yesterday, talking about that. Maybe this happened before, and there was like a suspension. Maybe the coach has to miss a game or two. There can sometimes be financial penalties. Obviously, because the revenue sharing deal was not signed, I mean, there's not going to be any enforcement of that. I mean, I think was seeing in the situation with the Washington quarterback, there was an issue because the school would have counted against a rev share cap that they had taken them. So that none of that's in play for Clemson because the revenue sharing deal wasn't, signed. But yeah, you're looking at suspension, maybe, potential taking away scholarships. You can have fines. You can have all sorts of things. I don't know specifically what the punishment would be here, but yeah, I mean, there's a range of options that the NCAA could take. But I also think, we've heard a lot about Clemson potentially suing Ole Miss. I think maybe that's a little bit of leverage here from Clemson's end, that if the NCAA doesn't do as much as they want them to do, maybe they'll go for some damages. So it'll be interesting to see how the NCAA responds there.
Yeah, I'm going to encourage Clemson to pursue a civil case for mental and emotional distress and damages with regards to that. Hey, we got John Blau, the Post and Courier, joining us. Follow him on X at John_Blau. That's JON because he's fancy, not JOHN like regular folk. It's JON. How did that happen?
I'm actually a Jonathan, so I just go by John because it's John Blau is just like punchy. So that's what it is.
I'm just trying. Hey, let me ask you this, John, and this is a legitimate question. I'm not clowning around. How does Clemson's defense stand now at the linebacker position? Because I have to think they put a lot of eggs in that basket with Luke Farrelly at linebacker. And I know Dabo said that they had called off the dogs on a couple of candidates, a couple of other recruits at that position. Are they going back to those guys? Are those guys still available, or what are they going to do now?
No, and that's where, I don't know if this would officially be in the brief or anything from Clemson if they were to sue Ole Miss, but, they did mess up, their football team a little bit by coming and tampering with one of their players towards the end of the transfer window, who was already signed, obviously. Because, yeah, Luke Farrelly was the one and only linebacker they recruited. They canceled all the other visits. All those guys pretty much committed elsewhere, so there's not really anybody to get at this point in time. You could argue that it's not an absolute death blow because, they do have, obviously, Sammy Brown coming back next year as a star. Jeremiah Alexander, Kobe McLeod have all, flashed at times. Logan Anderson's coming off of a red shirt. You have Drew Wadaz, Wade's younger brother, who's going to be in his third year in the program. CJ Kuba Taylor. You have some guys, and Braden Riley, a 4-star, is coming in, but not really a dude like Farrelly would have been. And that really would have helped the depth. You wouldn't have had to have leaned so heavily on a Jeremiah Alexander, a Kobe McLeod to be a starter level guy. And so, yeah, no, it does hurt them. I think they compensated a little bit by going to get some more defensive tackles. They really seem to have loaded up at that position. Obviously, if you got some defensive tackles, they can kind of occupy some blockers, make things easier on your linebackers. Maybe that helps. But yeah, as far as the linebacker position, it's not in an ideal place, I would say. Obviously, spring ball could prove otherwise if some guys emerge. But right now, yeah, it's definitely a question mark without Luke Farrelly.
And from a philosophical standpoint, I have to think that this absolutely positively makes Dabo get into almost a fetal position, or almost like he's inside of a turtle shell with regards to the portal going forward, because they were finally loosening up and starting to work the portal more and more. I think they got 3 last year, John. How many were they getting out of the portal this year? Because I want to say last year's haul and this year's haul was more than the previous 3 years combined.
Yeah, it was going to be 10 with Luke Farrelly. Take him out, obviously it's 9, but there is also Andy, I got to say his name right, Berberia, I think is his name, who's a junior college defensive tackle, is coming in as one of the higher rated junior college guys. So that's kind of part of it. But yeah, they had 3 in the previous cycle. Last offseason, they had backup quarterbacks in back-to-back years before that. So yeah, it was 5 guys in going all the way back to like 2018 from the portal, and then all of a sudden 9 or 10, depending if you want to count Farrelly. And yeah, no, I think this is why, Dabo was pissed off. It's obviously that this is the first time I do this, and I learned this is what it's really like. That I could sign a guy and then all of a sudden he's gone the next day. Obviously coaches don't love when their roster construction is so difficult and almost impossible because you sign a guy, they're taking classes, they're in team workouts, and all of a sudden they're gone. So I don't know if it will stop them from doing more transfers in the future, because I think you have to in certain situations in terms of roster numbers. But yeah, I definitely think it leaves a sour taste in his mouth in terms of, again, I finally go to the portal and this is what happens.
And John, before we let you go, my last question, and we're going to stay on the defensive side of the football. I knew that secondary play was a big issue last season. There were some changes at coaching with regards to that. How is that shaping up? What have they done through the portal to kind of fix that area?
Yeah, that was another point of emphasis. So they lost Khalil Barnes and Ricardo Jones to the transfer portal. You might argue that's probably better for both sides. They need to revamp that secondary. And so those two leave. Clemson brings in Jerome Carter III from Old Dominion and Corey Myrick from Southern Mississippi, two very productive players at the Group of 5 level. And so those two guys basically will plug in as your starting safeties for, again, a pass defense. I think ranked 118th nationally, which was a real disappointment for Clemson. And at corner, obviously, you bring back Ashton Hampton. You lose Avion Terrell, but they brought in Elliot Washington, the second from Penn State. He's an older player, played for Tom Allen, probably had his best season as a college player under Tom Allen. Supposedly runs like a 4.29 40, so has electric speed, which is exactly what Tom Allen loves. So you add that to the cornerback room, along with Donovan Starr, who's a guy they recruited out of high school, who was at Auburn for a year, and so he comes in as well. So they have more depth. They should have players who are an upgrade from what they had before. And so they did well there. Again, the one gripe for Clemson is probably that linebacker situation. And then obviously the fans' gripe is probably they didn't get a quarterback, but Dabo wasn't doing that.
Before we let you go, John, what are you working on for the Post and Courier?
I'm writing a ton about football. Obviously, we're still going to be looking more into kind of the potential ramifications of this tampering situation. Obviously, covered a basketball team that's 17-4, 7-1 in the ACC. Got some features coming up on some of those guys as well. So whole bunch of stuff. Keeping very busy, Scott.
All right. He's John Blau, the Post and Courier. Follow him on at Twitter/X at John_Blau, BLAU. John, been a wonderful catching up. Hope you feel better, buddy. Let's get together soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Scott.
All right. It's John Blau, the Post and Courier. Follow him on X at John_Blau. Yeah. The timing couldn't be worse. I mean, Dabo finally starts putting not just a toe in the water, but he was, about knee deep. We'll say that, almost knee deep. He was above his ankles, which is saying something. But then to get just splashed up with all that cold water. And some people, though, think it's a poor look for him to complain about it. We'll let you hear that on the other side. You're listening to the Halftime Show on 107.5 The Game.
Okie dokie.
Well, we got about 4 minutes.
3.5.
Okay. I'm going to the bathroom. I'll wash my hands.
Roughly. I'll let you know. I'll tell you when you're back.
Oh, man.
Because they got those liners in there and all that kind of other stuff. Sometimes it's double liners. Sometimes it's triple liners.
I'm back, Dave.
Oh, didn't know you were gone.
Hey, we'll be playing the Feinbaum Dabo clip here.
Okay.
How long do we have?
Another minute or so.
And when we get like a minute out, will you play like a music bed to let me know or something?
There's an auto music bed at 54:50.
What time do we have to be out?
54:20, 55:20. That's 30 seconds long. Bed.
Okay, 55:20.
Yeah.
Because I had 54:55 written down.
But you can't hear the commercials at the moment, right?
I cannot.
To most, thanks to Progressive's Renters Insurance.
And now.
Fresh linens and turn-down service. You see Morgan.
All right.
What do we have?
Okay, you can come back.
Making the final lap. Opening hour of the halftime show, 107.5. I want to thank John Blau, the Post and Courier, coming aboard, giving us the lay of the land in the upstate around Clemson. And I closed out last segment by asking this question. Was it a bad look for Dabo to actually stand up for himself in his program? I know that sounds counterintuitive, but there are some people out there that actually think it was poor form. And I disagree wholeheartedly, but some people think otherwise. And we're going to play it now. This is courtesy of WJOX in Birmingham. This is Paul Feinbaum with Cole Kublik and Greg McElroy yesterday. Here's his take on Dabo calling out Ole Miss. Dave, can you play that clip?
It emboldens Ole Miss people feeling, okay, our guy's working hard. Our guy's trying to do whatever it takes, whether it's in theory legal or not. And that's kind of where we are in college athletics, as you guys know. And then there's Dabo Swinney, who just does the wrong thing at the wrong time, looking more distant, more out of touch, more antiquated, more antediluvian than he has ever been. And for a guy that just finished an absolutely miserable season, it doesn't help him because he is years removed from a legitimate national championship contender. Last year, being in the playoffs was more of an outlier than it was reality. Everybody knows Clemson started the season in the top 5 and ended up nowhere. And I just think it hurts him more than it has in the past. And that's a bad look for a guy that really still has support of a fan base because he has been one of the more remarkable coaches in changing a program's direction than anyone in modern history. But he just looks farther and farther away from ever getting Clemson to that moment again.
Okay, 2 quick things. One, full disclosure, I consider Feinbaum a friend. I think he's a good guy. Especially away from cameras and microphones and all that. He's really a thoughtful, intelligent, kind person. And I mean that. 2, I don't know what antediluvian means. I'm going to have to look that up, but it can't be good. And I almost think that this was just a take to have a take, because how can it be poor form to stand up for yourself? How can it be poor form to stand up for your program and for the way, not only for yourself and your program, but for a way of doing things that you have become the pseudo champion of? Dabo has screamed the loudest. He has yelled the most. He has criticized the current system of pay for play and limitless transfers basically since it all started. And he has stuck to his guns by insisting that Clemson remain, above all things, a developmental program. Now, I know they use the portal to a degree. I get that. I think that actually shows a willingness to understand you have to play this way. But he's not going to let that be the foundation of his program. So that's cool. I get it. That's how he wants to do it. Different strokes for different folks. But to have his program basically raided by a pirate blatantly and to not do anything about it would have had made him be hypocritical, because here's your chance to actually expose somebody for this system that you're so against and not taking advantage. It would have done that. And B, that would have castrated him professionally. Who could take him seriously after that? Who could say any words he said going forward would have no weight? None. And if you're to listen to what Paul said, that this empowers Ole Miss and this, that, and the other, that basically aligns to the old, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Doesn't have to be that way. Now, do I think it's a coincidence that the SEC hasn't made the national championship since everybody started getting paid? No. I get it, brother. But it doesn't mean you have to operate that way. I just did not think that was a good take whatsoever. But here's the bigger question, though. Above all that, above everything that I've thrown out there, here's the biggest question I have. What is Ole Miss going to do? Or maybe this, who does Ole Miss want to be? Your coach, who has been on the job for 1 month, first time as a Power 4 head coach, first time as a head coach, period, has gotten busted, wrist deep in the cookie jar of another program. How do you respond? Keith Carter, the athletic director at Ole Miss, I gave him so much credit for the way he handled Lane Kiffin's just awfulness. When Lane Kiffin was doing his deal, Keith Carter stood his ground. He showed who was running that athletic department. He didn't allow himself to be bullied. He didn't allow himself to be extorted by Lane Kiffin. And I felt it was a seminal moment for Ole Miss. Not just the football team, but the athletic department. It showed who their leader was, and it showed what they wanted to be, and that they were ready to move on beyond the sliminess of Lane Kiffin. But now, to not do something to your head coach, to not take measures to punish him, maybe I think he should be fired, honestly. You're going to lose all that equity you gathered during the Lane Kiffin debacle. We got a lot of basketball chop up on the other side. You're listening to the Halftime Show, 107.5.
Broadcasting live from.
Okay, back just before the top of the hour. 10 seconds before.
Okay.
There's a show open in bumper music. I'll tell you when you're back.
Okay.
Is Lulu right at the top of the hour?
1:15.
Okay.
Do you have her number?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Lulu's a good one. My protege.
Which is good, I think.
Female voice. And what time are we out this next one, Dave?
Time out, you mean the end of the hour?
No, I'm sorry. At the end of this next segment, is it 1:15 out by then?
Yeah. So it's always 15, 30, and 45.
15, 30, and 45. Can go before then.
Yeah, you can go before then, just not after.
Okay. I might go out a little early on this one and go longer with Lulu.
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds good. Okay, get ready. Okay, you can go back.
It's the second hour, the halftime show, 107.5 The Game. Scott Hamilton filling in for the next 2 hours. We got Lulu Kesson of the Greenville News. She's going to join us about 15 minutes, 10 minutes. Going to get her take on South Carolina women's basketball. Gamecocks sliding, plummeting to number 3 in the AP poll. What a world. What a world you live in when you talk about dropping to 3rd in the AP poll. Like, oh, man. That's a testament to what Dawn Staley has built. You have to think as of right now, the Gamecocks are a lock to be a number 1 seed. Lord forbid the sky fall between now and the postseason. But who else are going to get those number one seeds? We'll ask Lulu when she comes aboard in about 10 minutes. Some good news from the professional ranks. And this is something that I was not tracking, but our friends over at Gamecock Central, specifically our buddy Jack Veltri, he put this up. Former Gamecock Colin Murray Bowles, rookie with the Toronto Raptors. He has been selected to the NBA Rising Stars roster. That's a pretty big deal. They made that announcement last night. He was one of 10 rookies to make the team, the only one from the Raptors. There are 3 of those teams. Includes NBA sophomores and the NBA G League. Don't get me started on the G League. The event will take place during the NBA's All-Star Weekend. That'll be Friday, February 13th, at 9 o'clock, again on Peacock. Back to the Peacock. I had Peacock for a while because I wanted to watch The Office, and I thought that would be the only place, but apparently they still show it on Comedy Central, and I could just DVR it, so I'm good. But that's neither here nor there. Looking at this Rising Stars thing again, it's a mini tournament. Will take place at the Intuit Dome in LA. Features 4 teams and 3 games, spotlighting the league's top rookies, second-year standouts. Yada yada yada. Look, going down the list now. Cooper Flagg from Duke and Con Kneppel. I watched him. I went to a Hornets game with my son when the Lakers were in town in Charlotte. Kneppel knew he was a good player at Duke, felt he was overshadowed by Cooper Flagg. He is a fantastic ball player. And I think he's got a very bright future in the NBA. I don't know a lot about the NBA. I'm just going to be straight with you. But from what I saw that night in person, I was really, really, really impressed. Reed Shepherd, he's one of the sophomores, by the way, from the University of Kentucky, now a member of the Houston Rockets. He made the cut for this. And I'm just scrolling down these rosters now. Just the usual suspects. So, yeah, good on CMB. Remember, he was selected 9th in the NBA draft last year. He's averaging 7.8 points, 5.1 rebounds per game, shooting 53.4%, 34.9 from three-point range. That is a solid season indeed. We're at that point also in the college basketball season where the brackets are starting to size up and guys are making predictions about who's going to be in the tournament, who's not going to be in the tournament, what's a bubble team, what's not a bubble team, who are the locks, who's going to be left out. Again, I feel so good about the top 10 teams in college basketball right now that you could just pick a bunch and I'll be good with it. Like there will be the difference between a 2 and a 1 is going to be wafer thin. Wafer thin. I'm looking actually at a list now. This is from one of the betting websites. I'll not say which one because we can't bet in South Kakalaki. The number 1 seeds right now projected to be Arizona, Duke, Michigan, UConn. Okay, I have no problem with that. Number 2 seeds Gonzaga, Houston, Iowa State, Nebraska. Nebraska is a 2. But I will go back to what I said to open the show. If Nebraska beats Michigan tonight, Nebraska could be the number 1 team in the country come next Monday. Might put them on my ballot as number 1. It's not outside the realm of possibility. What a world. Remember, Indiana already won the national championship. Who's to say that Nebraska can't be the number 1 team in America in college basketball? Again, we can thank the portal and NIL and all that for helping us have a possibly number 1 rated Nebraska men's basketball team. The Big Ten having absolutely fantastic season. I was speaking to Seth Greenberg the other day, 2-time ACC Coach of the Year, now an analyst for ESPN. And I wanted his take. How would you rank the conferences right now? And I agree with what he told me. He said Big 12, unassailable, the best conference in America. And if you look at these projections, it would seem to warrant that. Arizona being a 1 seed, Houston and Iowa State being 2 of the 4 2 seeds. But right behind it, and this, I think, is a testament to some coaching changes, is the ACC. The ACC is in the middle of a marvelous season with regards to basketball. Much, much improved from last year. That's for darn sure. And we saw that in the ACC SEC Challenge. Last year, 14-2 SEC, no question, the alpha of conferences, the SEC last year, historically great. And again, in the midst of an absolutely wonderful season this time around, probably send 9 teams to the tournament. And it's not so much, though, that the SEC has dropped off. It's that the others have elevated themselves. The Big 12 has elevated itself. The ACC has darn sure elevated itself. And I think part of it is because of these coaches who have come in and put life into the program. Like Will Wade, hate Will Wade, whatever. He's done a good job at NC State. You look at the new coaches at Miami. Miami having a wonderful season in basketball, at least compared to the drop-off it had at the end of the Jim Larinaga tenure. Miami right now, 16-4, 5-2 in the league. That's a fantastic start. New coach at Virginia, 2nd year, but after Tony Bennett stepped down last year. All this change is really doing something to elevate the conference. Pat Kelsey, year 2 at Louisville. Fantastic. And it's refreshing to see that as well. Now, my question is this, though. What are the teams at the bottom going to do to pull themselves up? The bloom is coming off the rose of Steve Forbes at Wake Forest. Does John Curry have the humbleness to admit that has not worked out? Leonard Hamilton's gone at Florida State. They're bottoming out. Pitt, what are they going to do? It's an interesting question. that we will explore at another time. But we've got Lulu Kesson of the Greenville News joining us on the other side. I want to get her take on what does South Carolina need to do to make sure there are no stumbling spots between now and the postseason. Because remember, they're coming up on a stretch where they're not going to be really challenged by many folks. The next three opponents for Don Staley's team, a combined 5-16 in the SEC. What are going to be the points of emphasis during that stretch? How do you focus? What do you focus on when you're not playing ranked opponents that'll keep you from having an upset? That'll be one of the questions we have for Lulu Kesson. And I'm also going to ask her this. Joyce Edwards has shown significant development from her freshman year to her now sophomore year, but she's still struggling with a couple of things. What does South Carolina do to alleviate those concerns and have her playing her best ball come tournament time? Lulu Kesson of the Greenville News joining us on the other side. You're listening to the Halftime Show, 107.5 The Game.
The Game Network, Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, and our new affiliate in Charleston.
Everybody loves streaming till you have to pay for it. Just download the 107.5 The Game app and stream us for free. Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet studio. Herndon Chevrolet is your hometown dealer. Stop by today or shop online 24/7 at herndonchevy.com.
Bill Gunner for Old Timey Meat Market. It was another, I was just mentioning all the great football, and that was highlighted by great meals from Old Timey Meat Market. Now, listen, it is January. It's not quite the cooking out weather that we get during the great spring, summer, and fall, but that doesn't mean you still can't get a phenomenal dinner, maybe even a lunch from Old Timey Meat Market with their homemade soups, with some of the great things that they have. You don't always have to be just out on the grill cooking out. You can cook indoors. Find out for yourself. Go visit one of their 3 phenomenal locations. You've got South Congaree, St. Andrews Road in Irmo, or of course the Lexington store, and visit and see what they're all about. Why they stand out is because of how they treat you, the customer, wanting to get to know your name, your favorite cuts of meat, and understand what you and your family like, so that when you walk in the door, they've got it ready for you. Stop by one of Old Timey Meat Market's 3 locations today and tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
You've seen them, the Goliath out-of-state law firms invading South Carolina, talking about how big they supposedly are. But if you've been in a bad wreck, all that big talk may not help you one bit. I'm attorney Michael Jeffcoat. I was born and raised right here in South Carolina. And as your neighbor, I'm committed to maximizing your recovery after a bad wreck. So after a serious injury, call Jeffcoat at 803-200-2000 because you deserve better.
Responsible attorney Michael Jeffcoat, 1333 Main Street, Columbia.
Hey, this is Jen Jensen for CHW Cabinetry. My family is using CHW Cabinetry, and they are fantastic to work with. They make sure you're satisfied with every step of the process. Not only do their photorealistic renderings show exactly what your new space will look like, their job site guarantees everyone is on the same page, literally. Experience the CHW difference for yourself. Go to chwcabinetry.com to see more, or call them at 803-520-6837, and be sure to tell them Jen Jensen sent you. CHW Cabinetry, passion from inspiration to installation.
Hey, this is Paul Romanstein, proud owner of Midlands Landscape and Lawns. Good news.
Okay, she is ready.
What do we got, about 30?
No, you got about 2 minutes.
Oh, okay, great.
A little less.
Okay, Dave.
the other station says dead air. Oh, great.
Ooh, not good. Not my fault.
But you're ready to come back. Hang on.
Now?
Hang on one sec. Okay.
Welcome back. Scott Hamilton in. Piloting the halftime show. Dave's here behind the glass. Here's a fun fact. Stat to know, by the way. Stat to know. After South Carolina women beat Vanderbilt 103-74 the other night. Vanderbilt's 20. This is courtesy ESPN, by the way. I'm not going to plagiarize this. Vanderbilt's 29-point defeat to the Gamecocks, the 5th largest defeat by a Division I team on a 20-game winning streak over the last 25 years. The more you know. You talk about statement games. My goodness gracious. Don Staley and company definitely made a statement on that. Got back on a winning track, but they're 3rd in the AP poll. Oh, my God. The sky is falling. What do they do going forward? Next few games, not that arduous. South Carolina's next 3 opponents, a combined 5-16 in SEC play. What will be the points of emphasis? What will they try to achieve other than getting victories that'll make them better when they start playing the really quality competition in the Southeastern Conference and then inevitably the postseason? Let's ask our friend Lulu Kesson of the Greenville News. Lulu, what are the Gamecocks going to focus on next 3 games?
Hey, thanks for having me on. I think rebounding is probably something that is going to be a major focus. Obviously, South Carolina shot the ball incredibly well against Vanderbilt, and if they could mirror that every game, they're going to be impossible to stop. But the reality is something that I think really needs to still continue to improve and be consistent is rebounding. It was something that I think played a major role in the loss to Oklahoma, and regardless of how good teams are and how many wins they have, rebounding can still make a difference. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that South Carolina really kind of dives into going forward, because even though it wasn't a major difference with Vanderbilt, it was still enough where you could tell that the team was, back on the right track in that regard.
Why is that such an issue, though, for the Gamecocks? Because I look at this roster and I see the size discrepancy that they have with a lot of opponents, and it just doesn't make sense, because not only does South Carolina have size, they have athletic size. I just don't understand why this is a problem.
I think an issue that South Carolina's having is honestly just a lack of a box out, and I don't want to get too technical with it, but basically a lot of times you see their forwards jumping straight up almost to kind of tip the ball around rather than getting a body on someone and boxing out and grabbing a rebound that way. And I think that improved, but it is sort of they're one of the tallest teams, in the SEC, and they're playing against teams that are a lot shorter than them on most nights, or just at least they have more depth at that position. They have 5 forwards, that are above 6'3". And so I think that South Carolina has no excuse, but the reason why they haven't been is you see them sort of fighting for the rebound, but it isn't the necessary position that they need to actually secure it. I mean, that's exactly how Reagan Beers got. I mean, yes, she's a great rebounder and she hunts on the offensive end, but she was surrounded by 3 South Carolina Gamecocks. In the last 18 seconds, she got the rebound, game-tying layup in a game that South Carolina lost in overtime. So little things like that matter. It can be one possession. Even when you're up by 40, it's sort of the habits that they have to get back to.
And I have to think that just grinds Don Staley's gears. I mean, because that's an effort issue. Or is it more than an effort issue, though, Lulu? Could it also be maybe apathy because they don't want to get into a foul situation and they know how quick Don is to sub in and out when somebody's in foul trouble?
I wouldn't necessarily say that, but I think it is a little bit more than effort. I mean, it's probably fatigue. It's environmental at times. The energy from Dawn the Wednesday, the day before the Oklahoma loss, she could tell the game was going to be tough. She was very clear that it did not matter that Oklahoma lost 3 straight, that the SEC is way too difficult. And it was almost okay, she very much thinks this team could lose. So to be honest, I wasn't entirely surprised when they did. I was more surprised of how poorly they played. But I think with rebounding, it is a little bit of like, you never know how tight the whistle is going to be, and you don't want to be picking up, fouls in sort of bad situations, I guess. But I think effort and technique is a little bit kind of goes into South Carolina just now starting to recognize, okay, we really have to put a body on someone and box out because it makes a huge difference.
Joined by Lulu Kesson of the Greenville News. Follow her on X at Lulu Kesson. And Lulu, when I think about rebounding, I think about Joyce Edwards. By the way, she had a team high 7 rebounds against Vanderbilt the other day. Her progress from year 1 to year 2 has been absolutely remarkable. And she had a really good season as a freshman for the Gamecocks. Kind of walk us through how she's improved and taken that next step going into her second season. And what are some points of emphasis for her that she continues to need to work on?
Yeah, well, I think that I'm actually writing a story about that, sort of diving into her numbers and how she's been this year. And obviously going from right now, she's averaging 20. The year's not over yet, but she ended last year as a freshman averaging 12.7. I think the biggest thing, like, yes, now that she's starting, the numbers are supposed to go up, and they should. And she's delivered. I think she's more creative with her shots. I think what we saw in the SEC tournament, definitely in the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament, she sort of realized defenses knew exactly what she wanted to do. And it's a long season. She's a freshman, she's young, but it kind of felt like when she couldn't score, it was because they were taking away her spin move and she didn't really know how to adjust in the game. And I've seen just a lot more creativity from her in one-on-one matchups so far. That said, I think it's no coincidence that her most complete game was what I'd argue South Carolina's most complete game, like the Vanderbilt win, where she had 16, 7 and tied her career high with 6 assists. After she had a career high 34 points, Dawn was very clear in December, she's a playmaker. We have to kind of force her to do those things because she's so locked into scoring. And when you play a non-conference schedule where you're able to dominate, you can't fault Joyce for knowing I can score in this one-on-one matchup. I can score on these 2 defenders. And that's what she was doing. But she struggled through her first 6 SEC games. She wasn't really shooting the ball well, and she really wasn't really passing it well either, kind of riddled with turnovers. And then it sort of felt like it was a complete switch against Vanderbilt, where she only had 1 turnover and, like I said, the 6 assists. I think she's somebody that still has a long way to go in regards to seeing the passes first. But there was one particular play where I saw that she read the floor completely, even though she had the one-on-one matchup. If she passed it to either of the 3 teammates, it would have been a turnover. She made a great move, scored. Even just that play alone was okay, she's growing. She's recognizing that it doesn't take away from her game if she looks to make sure she has the first, second, third option, or what she has in front of her before she puts the ball down to dribble. So, she's having a great year, but I think probably the most exciting part for Dawn and everybody is that she still has some, room to grow. And that's a good thing. You don't want to peak when you're 19 as a sophomore.
Yeah, and I think part of that maturation, though, will be making more sensible decisions. And you talk about her confidence when she's got 2 people on her, but she knows that she can still score if she does this move or that move. I don't think it's a coincidence that during that narrow victory over Texas, she shot only 27%. And in that loss to Oklahoma, she shot only 25% from the floor.
Yeah, the offense runs through her, but I also think exactly to your point, in those games, there were multiple instances where she was sort of forcing up a shot through a lot of traffic. And a team like Texas that's played her, that was their 6th time playing her, they know what she can do. And so it wasn't surprising whatsoever that she had little success, because she was trying to force things through a defense that knew, what moves she was going to make, that went into the 6 turnovers that she had. She had 4 in the loss to Oklahoma. So I think when she's sort of realizing, oh no, I think what Dawn wants her to do is recognize before it's too late that she has the other options, because of course it's not a bad thing if you score through 2 people and it goes in. But sometimes in those games specifically, it felt like she kind of got caught trying to make a move and then it was a turnover. But if she recognizes, okay, I drove into 2 people, split second earlier, I'm going to kick out to Raven at the 3-point line, that, there's nothing wrong with trying and then realizing before it's too late that another option is better.
Just a couple more minutes with Lulu Kesson of the Greenville News. And Lulu, one of the bigger headlines, I guess, for lack of a better word, from the offseason was Dawn bringing Tania Latson to Columbia from Florida State. She had led the nation in scoring 25.2 points a game for the Florida State Seminoles last year, down to 15.7 this year, which I guess was to be expected given the talent that she's now playing with as opposed to the talent that surrounded her in Tallahassee. How has she integrated herself into this offense, and how has she, at least publicly, handled not having those monster numbers like she had in Florida State?
Yeah, and I'll admit I might have some tunnel vision with this, but I still think it was a really good move for her because she's more efficient and she's scoring more and taking less shots. But that's exactly what's going to happen when she, is drafted into the WNBA in less than a year and has to make that really big jump as a rookie. And that's sort of why she came here. She knew she needed to be a better passer and a better defender. And the reality was she wasn't going to grow in that regard staying at Florida State. And as exciting as it is to drop, 23, 25 points per game, like that's not going to be her reality for a really long time at the next level. And especially with expansion, just the way that everything is going, like things will change. And as she said publicly, like I'd rather have that change happen now and not have it be this like really rude awakening when I'm fighting for a roster spot and a salary and a place on a team. And I think she saw a lot of value in what Dawn knows about the WNBA and wanted to take advantage of it. So I think, if players like Raven and Tessa weren't scoring, the way that they are this season and Latson's numbers were still around 15, like maybe I'd see a little bit of like, okay, yeah, she should be doing more, but I don't think it's any knock to her or her potential that other players are still scoring around her. I see a lot of like weird Twitter criticism of her like standing in the corner when Raven Johnson is shooting a free throw or a 3-pointer. Like tonight impacted that play probably 2 passes beforehand because she's able to read the defense and set a screen or move around or make the right pass. Like she's still elevating her game even if it isn't her shot going in. And I do think that now that she's getting more comfortable and back from injury, like it was a tough Oklahoma game, but to see her bounce back in the span of 3 days and perform like she did against Vanderbilt, like a very, very good guard heavy Vanderbilt team is definitely promising for South Carolina.
And Lulu, my final topic, and I prefaced this interview by mentioning that South Carolina was now number 3 in the AP Top 25 poll. How hard is it for you to gauge the value of that poll, especially when you consider that 4 of the 6 top teams are in the Southeastern Conference, 5 of 10?
Yeah, I mean, I think polls are tricky, and I think even the last 2 weeks with like Vanderbilt playing on last Monday, that wasn't going into last week's poll, like that sort of made their place not really change after the South Carolina loss. Like with a team like South Carolina, I saw the argument for UCLA ahead of them, even before the loss to Oklahoma, because UCLA, took care of Oklahoma earlier in the year. It's a balance where you have to reference, okay, what happened a month ago and what happened in the last week. But I think regardless, like South Carolina is a team that people want to beat. I think in general, people are rewarded for beating South Carolina, but they act like a South Carolina win means nothing. And so I think that sometimes shows itself in the polls a little bit where like South Carolina can beat, I guess this wouldn't really be a thing. South Carolina moved because they lost to Oklahoma, but like in general, an Oklahoma team is like praised off the charts for beating South Carolina, but South Carolina's like win over number 4 Vanderbilt like didn't mean that much. And I just think it's a standard that Dawn sort of said a while ago, like why do teams get rewarded for playing us, but we don't get rewarded for being us? And I think that shows in the polls sometimes.
Do you get any sense about how Dawn feels having I know the schedule is the schedule and you can't really control anything but how you perform. But as I said, the next 3 opponents have a very underwhelming record in SEC play. But then right after that, you're looking at 4 straight ranked opponents and then 5 of 6 to close out the regular season. Do you get the sense maybe Dawn would rather spread out some of those underwhelming, for lack of a better word, opponents that are coming up immediately?
I'm sure everyone would in that case. I think it's always kind of good to sprinkle in, but I think in my recent memory, looking at South Carolina, they went 5-0 over a ranked stretch of, I think it was like top 15 or maybe top 22 teams last year. And that included the Tennessee road win and the LSU home win, like those were really big games. So I think this is a South Carolina team that tends to, I guess, play really well back to back to back. Of course, fans are probably like knocking on wood after I said that, but I think South Carolina is starting to gain back its rhythm. It had injuries. It had a lot of sort of lineup changes, another one. And I think the freshmen are starting to grow even more. Yes, in a perfect world, it isn't back to back to back to back ranked opponents, but I also think there's a lot of value in going through a gauntlet like that, knowing that every game in the NCAA tournament this year is going to be really hard and you're not really going to get the pleasure and kind of the privilege of going opponent to strong opponent, game after game. It's going to be hard, and they want to make a 6th straight Final Four, and that's what it's really going to have to take.
And my last question for Lulu Kesson of the Greenville News. As a native of the Northeast, what do you make of this recent cold spell that's come through the South?
Yeah, I thought it was it was underwhelming, but I also I'm a very safety first person. So I understand why people were cautious of the roads. Like when we left the game, it was pretty ice stormy, I guess. But I mean, looking at the pictures of my parents' house, right now, it's a totally different level of snow tundra, which I know obviously South Carolina doesn't get that, but have it, it happening at the same time, I thought was a little funny, knowing what people back home were experiencing versus here, and the level of panic differed.
Are you one of those Northerners that criticizes the driving during storms, winter storms down here?
I'll be honest, I criticize the driving down here at all times. People don't. I saw a tweet that was like, "How do you tell someone's not from South Carolina? They know how to drive." I think that I don't think that strongly, but I catch myself annoyed on the road, regardless of the weather.
All righty, it's Lulu Kesson of the Greenville News. Appreciate you coming by, Lulu.
Thanks so much for having me. It was fun. Thank you.
You're listening to the Halftime Show on 107.5 The Game.
The Game in Charleston.
This hour of in-show listening on 107.5 The Game is sponsored by QC Kinetics in West Columbia.
We good, Dave?
Regenerative orthopedic specialists of the mid.
Yeah.
I hit her spot.
Okay, get ready. Okay.
Second half, second hour, the halftime show, 107.5 The Game. Scott Hamilton still here, driving this thing along. I want to thank Lulu Kesson of the Greenville News for joining us. Enjoy her perspective, her take on all things South Carolina women's basketball. This moved overnight. Actually, it moved yesterday. But I think it bears mentioning here before we go into other matters. Earlier in the show, I discussed Charles Bediako, the former Alabama player who went to the G League, who's now a current Alabama player, thanks to a judge's temporary restraining order. Well, the NCAA now, who's the one trying to fight this because he was suing the NCAA in order to play again for Alabama. NCAA has requested that the judge recuse himself from this eligibility lawsuit. Their quote, impermissible appearance of impropriety. Ooh, I like that. The impermissible appearance of impropriety. Maybe because he's a booster who gives six-figure donations. We're talking about Judge James H. Roberts Jr. of the Tuscaloosa County Circuit Court. He is the one who granted Bediako that temporary restraining order that allowed him to play for the Crimson Tide one day after he filed a lawsuit against the NCAA. And guess what? He did play. Played pretty good, too. Alabama lost to Tennessee 79-73. But Bediako, he wasn't great. He's not a guy that's going to score 40 and pull down 15 rebounds, but he's going to be a force in other ways. Played 25 minutes, had 13 points, 3 rebounds, couple steals, had a couple blocks. But you have to remember, Alabama was also down a couple of guys who combined for 29 points a game. You get them back. You throw Bediako in the mix, a 7-foot rim protector who's athletic, takes up a lot of space, and even if he's not like he's away from the rim, even if they're not driving and he's going to protect the rim, he can move forward and misdirect shots thanks to his length, to his reach. Just by taking 2 steps out of the paint horizontally towards the three-point line, he can redirect shots, impact the game that way. So no wonder Nate Oates is like, yeah, I'll take him. Yeah, I'll do it. No coach in America would turn that down. Any coach that says, oh, well, I had this opportunity and I decided it wasn't right, back off if they say that. Don't be anywhere near them. Their pants are about to burst into flames. They're liar, pants on fire. It's just, there's no coach that wouldn't do that. There's too much at stake. Bediako will be forced. And now I think Alabama, I already felt out like Alabama was one of the more dangerous teams in the country, specifically when it's 3-pointers drop. I think they have legit Final Four potential now. I'm throwing it out there. Not a hot take. Back to the judge in question, though. He's listed. Now, this is proof right here, okay? You cannot weasel out of this. The judge in question, again, Judge James H. Roberts Jr., not senior, junior, listed on the Crimson Tide Foundation's website. That's an athletics donation site. He and his wife are recognized for lifetime contributions between $100,000 and $250,000. And he's the one that said, "Oh yeah, we need you to go play." Look, good on the NCAA. I am usually a very harsh critic of the NCAA. The Faison deal, that was horrible what they were doing to him. Horrible the way they drug that out to get him with eligibility with the Gamecocks football team. Connor Hickman at the College of Charleston, the way they drug their feet with him. On and on and on, suspending guys because they had too much cream cheese on their bagels. By the way, that is a rule, or at least it was a rule. Yeah, you could give them the bagel, but you couldn't give them the cream cheese for it. It was an impermissible benefit. Yeah. But good on the NCAA now for standing up for itself, for defending itself. And I guess it has to now. It's at a point where if the NCAA doesn't start getting some W's, it is going to be pushed into oblivion. It's not going to exist. Its usefulness has already gone the way of the dodo bird. It is going to vanish. Okay? The closer we get to a professional model anyhow, as if we're not there already, makes the NCAA even more irrelevant. It is ancient, archaic. It's got to stand up for itself or just vanish. I wonder, I do wonder this. What will happen when football inevitably pulls away? The NCAA could continue to exist if it can maintain, as I'm saying, some semblance of relevancy and power. It could continue to exist because it can oversee the other sports. Specifically, and most notably, the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship, the crown jewel. Was the crown jewel of all college athletics before the college football playoff became a thing. It could continue to exist and oversee basketball, baseball, the Olympic sports, and so on. And that's fine. Let football go do its own thing. Has been anyhow, it seems like, for decades. But it's got to win battles like this. And I don't know that it's going to win this one, honestly. Because here's one of the, and they say, oh, the rules allow it, the rules allow it. The rules do allow professionals to go back to college so long as they have not earned more than what would pay their expenses. That's why you see these foreign players in the college ranks, guys who had played professionally overseas who are allowed to play in college. But my question is this: who's to determine what the expenses are? Do you have to hand in receipts? You have to say, well, here's my budget for food. Here's my cell phone bill, gas, lodging, so on and so forth. No, it's an arbitrary thing. Who sets it? It's so subjective. Who sets the amount? Some people have more expenses than others. What if you have a personal trainer? Does that count on your expenses? What if you have a nutritionist? Does that count as your expenses? That's why the NCAA, in this case, I really do think has a leg to stand on. Because if that's the crux of it, if they're trying to say that by signing an NBA contract, even though he never played an NBA game, he made more than to cover his expenses, that's not going to work. That cake don't bake. It's just so subjective. Who determines what the expenses are? This didn't used to be an issue. I mean, nobody would even question it. And I have to wonder this. And I pondered this the other day with someone. What does the NBA Players Association think of this entire matter? I've got to think they hate it. There are two things in this country Three that are powerful. Three entities that are really powerful. The NFL Players Association, the Major League Baseball Players Association, the NBA Players Association. Those three unions have got some juice. But something like this kind of takes away a little bit of the gravitas of the NBA Players Association. And it really makes a mockery of the one and done rule that they were so pleased to negotiate about 20 years ago. I mean, the coaches were adamant against that. Isn't this, and Jay Billis brought this point up, by the way, isn't this kind of the same thing? And everybody ended up adapting to it? It's just, we spend more time. I'm guilty, obviously, throwing my right hand up in the air. Theater of the mind, imagining me throwing up my right hand, saying guilty. We spend more time talking about these kinds of matters now in criminal courts, or rather civil courts or courts of law, rather than on the basketball court. That's where sports are in 2026. It's where it's been for the majority of the 21st century, or at least it seems like that, at least this part of it. We'll dive deeper into this a little more later in the program. I'm actually going to get into a little golf, though, on the other side. Brooks Koepka, he's back. Scotty Scheffler, he's back being awesome. We'll chop that up on the other side. You're listening to the Halftime Show, 107.5 The Game. We clear? Dave?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. What do we got, like 4 minutes?
Minute and a half. Well, yeah, 3.5 minutes.
Okay, good. I got that old prostate.
Thank God for Flomax, huh?
I'm back, Dave.
Okay. Everything come out all right?
Man, should it burn?
I don't think so.
No, okay, it doesn't. I just want to make sure. How long do we have?
Looks like 30 seconds.
Oh.
You should go to my urologist. She is a stone cold beauty.
Okay, I'm down.
Okay, you're back.
Scott Hamilton in halftime show, 107.5 The Game. It is cold outside, duh. So that makes me want to just sit in and watch golf. And I saw Scotty Scheffler actually torch a course over the weekend. What he did at La Quinta, the Amex. I mean, he's Scotty being Scotty. 20th career victory. He's not 30. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I mean, this guy is otherworldly. And what blows my mind is the fact that I really wasn't aware of him until I think it was the match play in 2021, maybe. And it was in Austin. And I remember watching this guy walk up and he hits the driver and he's got this funky footwork and all that. And I'm like, who's this guy? He's not going to make it. No, forget about him. He's going to end up being at best, a rank and file PGA Tour player. He's going to be a 6'4", 6'5" Matt Kuchar, who he'll make plenty of cuts. He'll cash lots of checks, but he's not going to do anything really to resonate with future generations. Wrong. He's a golfing cyborg. I mean, he is a golfing machine. He's now got 20 career victories in only 151 starts. And he doesn't just win. I mean, he's killing people. He won by 4 shots over the weekend. That wasn't a bad field. It wasn't a signature event, one of the elite, no-cut, yada, 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 limited field events like Harbor Town. But that was a pretty good field. And he wins by 4 shots. To put it in a proper context, only Tiger got to 20 wins quicker. Tiger did it in 95 starts. Okay, so that's otherworldly. It's hard to compare. And Tiger was more judicious in what tournaments he played and how many tournaments he played. It was just different the way he went about his business. But I will say this, and this is not hyperbole. This is not me being a prisoner of the moment. I've been around golf a long time. The more he wins, and the more he dominates, I find myself comparing him to Tiger more and more. That's something I never dreamed of doing. I never thought there would be a moment where I would even pause and go, kind of like Tiger. Never. Because I was at Golf Week when Tiger Palooza was happening. I saw stuff, man. And I'm seeing stuff again. Now, the difference is he's doing it under the radar. He's not an icon like Tiger. He's not a cultural phenomenon like Tiger. He's not influencing society in myriad ways the way Tiger Woods did. Scotty Scheffler goes about his business. The most noticeable, for lack of a better word, thing that he did was get arrested in Louisville. Then I think he went out and shot a 69 or something, 64, something ridiculous that day at the PGA up in Valhalla. If he were a little more personable, I'm not going to say personable. That's a bad word because by all accounts, he's a good dude and he's got a personality and all that. But if he was a little more magnetic, how about that? Magnetic. Scotty Scheffler, what he is doing would be top 2 story on SportsCenter every night if people still watch that thing. Really, we are watching. Greatness is unfolding every week on the PGA Tour when he's playing, and it's kind of not resonating the way it really should. Here's some more. Listen to this. Since the start of 2024, 2 years ago, He's won 14 times. Who's second on that list? Who's the second most prolific winner on that list? Rory McIlroy. He's won 5. He's won nearly 3 times as many events as the second most prolific golfer over the last 2 years. That's shocking. It's shocking. And 9 of those 20 have come by 4 shots or more. He's not just beating the field. He's pummeling the field. He had 32 birdies at the American Express and didn't look like he was sweating. And it was his first tournament of the year. He's just, and his talent is unassailable. Make no mistake about it. But his consistency is his biggest strength. He doesn't have bad rounds. He doesn't. Here's another stat. This will drive that home. Since he finished tied for 20th at the Players last March, he hasn't finished worse than 8th place. That is 17 straight starts with a top 8 finish. That's amazing. Only one other player has anything comparable to that. Tiger Woods. We are watching greatness, and it's not getting its just desserts. It's not getting the notice that it should receive. Because what he's doing is absolutely fantastic. And unfortunately, this week, the story is going to be Brooks Koepka. Koepka's return from LIV, NBC with extended coverage, Koepka Cam, and all that.
20 seconds.
It's a shame. Here's another shame. NASCAR going to pull away from the Roval in Charlotte for the playoff. Got Jordan Bianchi, the Athletic. He broke that story. He's joining us on the other side. Second hour of the halftime show in the books.
Okay, I guess send me his number if you have it.
I will do it now. Don't yell at me, Dave. Send me that urologist, by the way. I'll send you my proctologist. He has big fists.
Financing, no need to worry about that. How about a 15-year parts and labor guarantee? That's right, 15 years. You can trust AAA Heating and Air, and no payments or interest for 12 months. For more information, give them a phone call, 803-677-1500. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
The 8th annual Driving Down Maine virtual golf tournament, hosted by United Way of the Midlands, is teeing off February 2nd and 3rd at the Players Club on 1626 Main Street. Don't miss your shot. Tee times are still available, with proceeds benefiting the Midlands Reading Consortium, a partnership between United Way and 17 Midlands elementary schools. Swing into action and register your team now at uway.org/DDM to reserve your tee time. It's the United Way of the Midlands Driving Down Maine virtual golf tournament, February 2nd and 3rd. At the Players Club.
Hey guys, it's Jay Phillips for the Men's Clinic. You know, too often guys will not go to the doctor when they're feeling off, whether it's because they think they can tough it out or because they don't want to talk about it. Don't be that guy. Get to feeling better after you see Dr. Dan Bachnight and his team at the Men's Clinic. They are experts in healthcare for men, and they're dedicated to making you feel like yourself again. Call them up for a free consultation, 803-875-MENS, and learn more online at themensclinicsc.com.
Marketing text messages. Consent are required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
The team's looking good this season.
I think so. Man, I miss playing football. Ever since I turned 40, I just can't find that fire I used to have.
Think it could be lower testosterone?
What do you mean?
I was feeling...
Okay, he is ready.
Cool. What do we have, 2 minutes?
Promo code MONEY for an extra 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code MONEY for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code MONEY.
Your home for the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game. WNKT Eastover, Columbia. A Cumulus media station. The Halftime Show with Bill Gunter, Tyler Head, and David Ayre on The Game.
Okay, you can go.
It's third hour of the Halftime Show. Scott Hamilton filling in. Daytona 500 just a couple of weeks away. We're starting to get more and more news regarding the 2026 NASCAR season. We had the announcement about the changes to the playoff a couple of weeks ago, and then this morning I'm reading, and this one I don't really care for, but maybe I need to retrain my brain. It's Jordan Bianchi at The Athletic, and he's got the story that NASCAR's Roval playoff race is going to go back to being an oval, which to me seems counterintuitive because of my own checkered relationship with Charlotte Motor Speedway and Cup racing. But again, maybe I just need to have my brain retrained. I want to find out what this means for Charlotte. What does this mean for the Cup Series? And what's it mean for road course specialists? Here's a question I'm going to ask Jordan Bianchi. Jordan, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for so much having me on.
Jordan, this is my question. This is the biggest question. Are cookie cutter tracks cool?
They are cool again. And I know if you're a NASCAR fan, if you're a longtime NASCAR fan, there was certainly a long period of time where, like, when NASCAR would go to an intermediate racetrack, and when we say intermediate, we mean about a 1.5 mile to a 2 mile racetrack. So think Charlotte, Michigan, those kinds of places. You're like, they get so spread out. There's no passing, et cetera, et cetera. They were not the races that people circled on the calendar and got excited about. That was before 2022, though. NASCAR in 2022 introduced this next-gen car, and this new car is phenomenal on intermediate-sized tracks. And particularly, the races at Charlotte Motor Speedway and the Coca-Cola 600, which is NASCAR's longest race, have been phenomenal. Widely received. The action is fantastic. There's a lot of passing. There's a lot of great racing. It is everything you want to see out of NASCAR and the epitome of what NASCAR should be on that type of track. And so at the same time as this evolution has happened where the racing has gotten better on intermediate sized ovals, this new car hasn't raced well on road courses, which is what the Roval is. And there's been a noticeable downturn in the competitiveness and the excitement level on most road courses since 2022. And so really what you have seen is a lot of people within the industry, a lot of fans are going, wait a second, we've got this great oval race we have every year at Charlotte. Why don't we get more of that and less of this other style racing, which maybe hasn't been as exciting as we want? Let's do that. Why not do that? And finally, as I reported in The Athletic, Charlotte Motor Speedway is expected to announce that both of their races they have each year will be on that oval.
I lived for a long time just in Mooresville, just down the road from the racetrack. Yeah. And the only time I would go was when I had to go for work because I could not stand the cookie cutter courses, man. I couldn't handle it. And then when the Roval came into being, man, I was stoked. I just thought it was fantastic. 100%. But to your point, though, I have seen a downturn in the quality of racing on the road courses over the last few years. But I still think that's something that needs to be in the mix, especially when it comes time for the playoffs. Do you get a sense of what NASCAR will do to keep that relevant, to at least give some kind of pathway for a guy who's maybe average on all the other tracks, but he's really good on the road course?
Yeah, and it's a really good point. And that is the one thing on this is now if you look at the 10-race Chase playoff schedule, there are no road courses. I would anticipate that you'll probably see a change to the 2027 schedule where you could see a road course slide back in there. But because this change was so made so late at Charlotte Motor Speedway, there really wasn't much NASCAR could do in terms of kind of reconfiguring its schedule and moving a road course in there. There needs to be, in that 10 race playoff, there needs to be a representation of all tracks, short tracks, medium-sized tracks, super speedways like a Talladega, and you need to have a road course in there. And the understanding is that NASCAR would like to have that. They just can't do that for 2026. So it is a little bit of a loss, if you will, but the net gain is significant enough where I think when come the fall and you get a playoff race at Charlotte Motor Speedway on the oval, the racing should be sensational, and it's going to turn people to say, hey, wait a second, maybe we should have been doing this a while ago. This is good stuff. And then the Roval when the Roval was created, and like you, there was a period there from when it came in 2018, really up until this new car came in 2022, it was phenomenal. The Roval was great. It was drama, it was excitement, it was everything you want to see, especially in a playoff race. But it has flipped a little bit, and the quality of racing is not as high.
You see, and you bring up a really good point. I know we have these new changes in the playoff.
Yep.
The one thing I liked about the old system, though, I actually liked that it was broken up into 3 races. I really did, because I felt that you had a little bit of everything within those windows, and that if you really excelled at any one point, like Joey Logano, I think it was around 2016, 2015, he won an entire segment. I said he should go straight to the final for doing that. That was awesome. This is kind of lacking. Don't you agree, by not having a road course in, by not being balanced? Because, and help me out here, Jordan, of these 10 playoff races, 7 are traditional courses, cookie cutters, 1.5 miles?
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, I have been taken to task many times. I kind of like the old format for a lot of the reasons you named. Like, I like the drama and the excitement of it. I understand why it needed to change, and I think NASCAR hit on the right compromise, if you will. But I do think you need to have all representation of all tracks in there, and having a road course in the chase is a good thing. And you don't want too much of the same thing. The only thing I will say to that, though, is you look at the quality of tracks that are now currently in the playoff: Las Vegas, Charlotte, a Homestead, a Darlington. These are the places where NASCAR really has put on a consistently good shows lately, and that is good. And it really does allow the drivers and the teams to best showcase their abilities, where you do get an accurate representation of who is the best at that time of the year, which is what you want in your playoff format. So yes, balance is really, really important. And there's still a short track there in Martinsville. Phoenix is still a smaller track. You still have a super speedway in Talladega. And you don't want to go to the well too many times. Certainly you don't want 10 races on intermediate racetracks. You have to have a good representation and a good balance. You could maybe strike a little bit better of that balance, but I think NASCAR will in 2027 when they have an opportunity to better lay out the schedule.
We're joined by Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic. Follow him on Twitter at Jordan_Bianchi. Jordan, just a couple more minutes, please. And you talk about coming to a compromise, and this compromise appeases a lot of people. It appeases the traditional fans, and it appeases the new generation of fans, the ones that NASCAR are really trying to roll in. And it reminds me, you mentioned Martinsville. I was in Martinsville the night they first turned the lights on, man. And it oozed the future. Oh, it was great. It was awesome. And yeah. they had the Legends car going around the track. One of the Wood brothers was driving it. But it made me think, though, this is the future and this is the past. And that is what NASCAR has to try to do. It has to run in 2 lanes, because more than any other sport, it's a regional sport whose heartbeat belongs to a past generation, and they have to keep that heartbeat going and stay connected to it. I think by modifying the playoffs in this fashion, they've done that, but it's a delicate balance to keep the younger fans in, bring in the next generation. So I guess that's a long-winded a way of asking this question. How healthy is the sport right now? How healthy is NASCAR with trying to achieve its sentimentality, for lack of a better word, while also being progressive?
Let me just say, I will agree with everything you said about that balance of what NASCAR is trying to do between the old fan and a new fan, and trying to find that middle ground. And it's a really hard balance. And there are times when maybe NASCAR skews one way too much, and it's been kind of a teeter-totter, if you will. I think the changes they have made, and not just the playoff format, they've made some changes to the car this year, more horsepower, and some other things they've done. is probably striking a little, getting back to kind of what NASCAR is supposed to be in its representation. And I think that is really, really important. Is you have to have, at the end of the day, you have to have, when people think of NASCAR, they think of a certain style racing, and you have to make sure you give them that. And I think NASCAR is doing that. The one thing I'll say about where the sport is headed is there is much, it seems like there's much more optimism going into this year than there has been in past few years. And I think it's significant to note there's no federal lawsuit hanging over the sport. We had the big lawsuit that was kind of led by Michael Jordan against NASCAR that got settled in December. That's been hanging over the sport for over a year, and really throughout 2025. And even if you want to go back further, the charter negotiations, that was hanging over the sport. Then there was the media rights deal and everything that entailed. There was all these big topics and big potential seismic changes just over the sport, like a black cloud of like, man, this could be bad if it goes this direction. There is none of that now. That's all been cleared up. It's all been settled. Now NASCAR has a runway really to kind of get back to what it is supposed to be, and hopefully brighter days ahead. And there's a sense of optimism now among many of the people in the industry. You talk to them and say, okay, we've got all that negative stuff gone. That black cloud that's been over the sport is now pushed aside. It's dissipated. Now we can focus on what we are and showcase us to the sports landscape of what NASCAR is. And now they feel like they can really do that. So we'll see if that optimism actually becomes reality, but there's a belief that this can happen.
I've always said that NASCAR needs to think small, because it had that decade of what I call the decade of overexpansion that really marginalized and kind of pushed away its core base. And they're still trying to scramble to recover all that and to repair the underpinning. And I'm really excited about all these changes. And I'll tell you what else I'm excited. We'll close out on this one, Jordan. I'm saying think small. The clash at Bowman Gray in Winston-Salem, dude. I mean, if anybody that's ever been to Bowman Gray, they get what I'm putting down. I was so happy to see that event last year. Just an absolutely fantastic event, Jordan. Are you going this year?
Yeah. I will be there. We'll see if it's this weekend or not is up in the air just because of the weather and the snow and the cold, but I will definitely be there.
All righty. Well, it's Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic. You can follow him on X/Twitter at Jordan_Bianchi. Jordan, I appreciate your time so much. Thank you for your insight. Let's chat again soon, brother.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate you. Bye-bye.
All righty. It's Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic. And I mean that. NASCAR has to think small. When it was thinking big, it hurt itself. It watered itself down to the point that it's just now starting to get better. It marginalized its base. No sport in America is more rooted in a regional base and a core group of fans than NASCAR. And it marginalized it. It went to places where it would be either irrelevant or ignored. I don't know which is worse. Needs to come home, and it's starting to do more of that. It's going to these places, its roots, and it's taking care of those fans that helped found it, that helped make it what it is. And I think it's exciting. And as far as the new playoff format, I'm okay with it. I'm all right with it. I liked, and to Jordan, and I'm glad to hear he agreed with me, I liked the segments where you had 3 race blocks. I was cool with that, but there still felt something kind of dirty about having that final work out the way it did. Just my 2 cents, but I'm glad to hear about these changes. And I am excited. I am excited now to look at the cookie cutter 1.5 mile courses through different lenses. Thanks to Jordan Bianchi. All right, I'm going to give that reconsideration. We got a lot more to chop up. About 45 minutes left. The halftime show on 107.5.
The Game Network, Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, and
There's dead air on OMG again.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, I might be the only one down here by these studios. Probably am.
Oh, no. Dave, what time are we out with this section, this segment?
This would be by 30.
Okay. You think we could re-rack the John Blau interview?
Yeah, let me work on it here.
Thank you.
I can do that. Okay, you're back.
Welcome back to the halftime show. Scott Hamilton here for the next 42 minutes or so. I want to thank Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic for joining us to give us the lay of the land in NASCAR. Daytona 500 just around the corner. The Clash is scheduled for this weekend at Bowman Gray Stadium in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, but might be in question because of the weather, which would be a darn shame. Jordan was filling us in on NASCAR's decision, upcoming decision. They haven't officially announced it yet, to have the playoff race at Charlotte Motor Speedway run on the regular 1.5 miles rather than the Roval configuration. It's because of the car. And you know what? I'm not a fan of the 1.5 mile races, but I'm going to look at it through different lenses now, thanks to Jordan. He's talked me into it. NASCAR on a really good streak of good decisions. They've brought the chase back, adjusted the playoffs. Good. They've elevated the horsepower levels of 20 races. Who doesn't want faster cars? That's fantastic. And now I presume making the common sense move of going to this oval because the cars are so good, rather than have them marginalized on something akin to a road course. So good on NASCAR for having some self-awareness and figuring out what's best for its base. It's got to do these moves, though, for the health of the sport. The offseason, and Jordan mentioned it during our interview, it was defined by litigation. I mean, it's one thing to be getting sued by Denny Hamlin, but it's another to be sued by Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan. That's going to get attention, and not in the best way. And let's face it, 9 people out of 10, rather, they're going to side against NASCAR just because it's Michael Jordan. You get what I'm saying? But NASCAR seems to be pushing all the right buttons now, doing what it needs to do to go back to its roots, to embrace its humble beginnings, and try to be that sport that really dominated a region for about 40 years. So good on NASCAR for that. And bringing it back home, bringing the base back home. Because it's you can't afford, it's not like football, it's not like baseball or basketball. You can't afford to alienate your fan base. It's not like high schools have stock car racing teams and you're going to have a constant stream of talent and followers just because it's what they did coming up. Yeah, you'll have some people who race coming up, kids, families who follow them, so on and so forth, but it's not like it's a school sanctioned event where they're coming in droves, that it'll always be populated with another generation. You alienate one generation, you're going to set yourself back, maybe for good. You might never recover. And that darn near happened the first part of this century, and I will stand by that. NASCAR was so aggressive with expanding, bound and determined to be a national sport, when it should have been just really elevating and building a fence around what it had. That's what it should have done. That's where I started to say NASCAR needs to think small. That big thinking nearly wrecked it, especially when the economy turned around 2008, 2009, during the recession. Don't forget, this is a sport built on sponsorships. Well, those sponsorships dry up when the housing bubble burst and all that other stuff. You had Bernie Madoff and his shenanigans. Meanwhile, NASCAR's overextended itself geographically and financially. It's lucky to be in the shape it's in today. And it's had to do some wrangling in the meantime. The charter system was created, which, again, goes back to those lawsuits. They've done some creative things with sponsors. They've done some creative things with regards to the playoff and the TV deals. I get it. That's great. But now that it's back in a position of stability, I'm not going to quite say power. It has to do what it can to raise its floor and make sure that it's safeguarded going forward. And these changes seem to illustrate that. There seems to be an incredible amount of self-awareness from NASCAR that we haven't seen in decades. Maybe ever, really. Maybe ever. Maybe since the early days with Lee Petty and those guys, Ralph Earnhardt, when they were driving. It's just great to see. I agree with Jordan Bianchi, though, of The Athletic, that there still, though, seems something not quite right about a playoff that doesn't have a test at each kind of track. Because the goal of the playoff is to identify a champion, and therefore that champion needs to show his proficiency on a short track, on a medium track, on a super speedway, and a road course. It needs to have that in there at some point. But if the exchange is a better product somewhere like Charlotte, a central hub, a popular destination for the fans and home to many of the drivers, then I can live with that. And I presume it's something NASCAR will address going forward. My question is this, though, and this is so typical NASCAR. Why did it wait so long? Or actually, it hasn't announced it yet, so it's still waiting to make this change, to make this announcement. Why isn't this something that could have been resolved in December? I get thinking through things. I get thinking through things again, and then even a third time to make sure it's the proper and prudent decision. But this is kind of extreme. Like the playoff change was just announced a few weeks ago. Could have been expedited. When did they start considering that? Was it something they were considering during last season? Why wasn't it something they could have announced immediately after the championship or even that very weekend? Hey, this is going to be the last time we do it like this. This is what we're going to do going forward. Why did they have to drag it out? Basically go radio silent for weeks at a time. Because they could have instituted it a little quicker. They could have actually solved the road course absence maybe this year. Inserted a road course into the rotation this time. And I know there are a lot of things that I am not aware of. I realize there are obstacles and there are obligations that have to be considered and addressed. I understand. But given what we do know, couldn't they have been a little more proactive making all this happen? I mean, NASCAR, more than any other sports entity other than the WWE, if you quantify that as a sports entity, changes things on the fly, makes changes on the fly, makes the rules up as they go. Couldn't they have done this a little quicker so that there would be a road course in the playoff this time around? And I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just throwing it out there because, and I'm nitpicking, to be honest, because everything else that it's done this offseason seems to be a home run, a slam dunk, hole in one, whatever you want to say. So it's hard to be on the organization given the winning streak, the heater that it's on at the moment. But it would be nice to have that road course in there. And I'm sure the road course drivers, those guys who really excel at the road course, that's when they can make up the most ground. That's when they can distance themselves from everybody else. I'm sure they agree. I'm sure they feel exactly the same way. Now they look at the schedule and they go, oh, man. I got to make hay here, 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 and here. That's going to be tough. And the teams, of course, the teams and the owners are thinking the same thing. Just my 2 cents on it. I'm going to take the win while I can get it. I'm happy for how things are trending. I'm hoping to God that they're able to have the Clash in Winston-Salem this weekend because that's pretty awesome. If you've never been to Bowman Gray in Winston-Salem, check it out. Very few places you can go and watch a race and then watch Division II college football. Winston-Salem State's home field. It's absolutely out of sight. Very different crowds. You go to the race, you'll watch some of the racing, but the people watching is unbelievable. The people watching at Bowman Gray Stadium on a race night is absolutely insane. And there's a good chance that there'll be a fight in the pit area, which is actually away from the stadium over more towards the school. And these aren't professional drivers per se. These are guys who have day jobs who race on the weekends. And there's a pretty good chance that there'll be a brawl of some sort between the drivers or between the teams or the pit crews or whatnot. So if you like the people watch and you like a little obligatory violence, go check out Bowman Gray Racing during the week. We got a few more things to get to. I want to rehash this Clemson situation. Again, the NCAA looking into Clemson's claims that Ole Miss blatantly tampered with Luke Farrelly, the linebacker, who's now gone. He's at Ole Miss. Want to go over Dabo's comments regarding that. Feinbaum's assessment of the situation, which I think is out of bounds. Also want to rehash Duke reaching a settlement with its now former quarterback. He's headed to Miami. We'll touch on that and a few other things and start putting a bow on the halftime show, 107.5.
Yeah, I can. I've got it set up. So if you want to do it as the last segment, you could be out at 42 or so.
So do it now coming up, and I preface it and then call for it, or. No, I see what you're saying. If I how long is it?
Do a little short segment here.
Yeah.
And be out by 42 or so. I'll give you a timeout.
Okay. What
Tell
time
you like 30 seconds, or 1 minute and then 30 seconds.
So do a short segment here.
Yeah.
And how long?
for your segment?
Yeah.
Somewhere like 6.5 minutes,
Okay.
roughly.
Okay. Yeah. So, and what time are we back?
Here?
Yeah.
Back at 33:21.
Okay. So I'll do a we'll come back at 33. I'll do a 6-minute segment. We'll go to break. I'll come back. I'll call for the interview. Then coming out of the interview, close out the show. Is that what you're saying?
Call out the interview, then I won't be able to time it out correctly.
Oh, okay.
I won't know how long you're going to go. But you can preview it. You could say, like, this is coming up,
In the 6-minute segment.
Yes.
Yes. And then when we come back, we go straight to the interview.
Yes.
And then after the interview, you tell me to go and I close out the show.
Yes, if necessary.
You're the man, Dave.
Yeah, I do what I can.
Sounds good to me, brother.
They got so lazy here one time they would do the pregame show for the early starts for the football games.
Mm-hmm.
They would pre-record it. The whole thing. So, I just come in, I'd time it out the night before. I wouldn't have to get here until like 3 hours before start instead of the usual 6 hours before start.
Oh, wow. That's working smarter, Dave.
Yes, it is. So I didn't mind it.
I'll call for those 2 audio clips during this 6-minute segment.
Okay.
And then we'll go to break. We'll come back and we'll go straight to the interview. And then I'll be waiting for you to tell me the interview's almost over. And then I'll close out the show.
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
And I would have come up there today, but I had a situation I had to handle.
It worked. It wasn't perfect, but because I didn't know everything here.
Yeah, you did a wonderful job.
Where do you get that?
I think it worked for me. I thought you did a great job, Dave.
Well, I've been doing it since 1976.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
You were 12.
They have this thing for the South Carolina Broadcasters Association where they come in and they have all these old people talking about the old days when they were great, which they haven't done anything since it happened after 1980, right?
Uh-huh.
So there, 1955, we used to have rabbits in the studio. They never, I worked at every station in this town.
You had to splice tape.
Exactly. Grease pencils and razor blades.
Whew. That is incredibly hard.
Oh, yeah, much better now. But some of those old people, I don't like this digital stuff. I never did like
it. Why?
Probably because I never had to do anything.
It's so much easier. Does it sound the same, though?
Sounds better, really.
Oh, there you go.
Unless you're Neil Young, in which case, it never sounds as good as that long.
Neil Young.
Yeah, coming back to you. Okay.
Second half, hour 3, the halftime show. Scott Hamilton in here for another half hour. Close things out. Still trying to wrap my mind around everything that happened up at Clemson at the end of last week. We got the news today that the NCAA is looking into Clemson's allegations of tampering by Ole Miss with linebacker Luke Farrelly. Luke Farrelly gone. He's no longer a student. And he was a student. Make no mistake about that. He was a student at Clemson. Had an email address and everything, student email address and all that. And he's out. And it used to be that if you were in class, if the kid got in class, you could breathe. You could say, we got him. He's here. You had two steps. You had the fax machine with the letter of intent. You got the letter of intent. Okay, we got the paperwork. Now we got to get him here. Okay, kid shows up. He's in class. He's done. Done deal. Woohoo! Well, obviously it doesn't matter anymore. And Clemson or Ole Miss was poking around, and well, he's gone. And Dabo went scorched earth on them, and NCAA's looking into it. And good on Dabo. Dabo didn't hold back. Dabo called it for what it is, went through the timeline, had his stack of papers. I presume those documents and myriad more papers are now in the hands of the NCAA, and they'll make some kind of decision on this going forward. Dabo, however, has already made a decision. He knows what it is. And here's what he said during his presser. Dave, can you play the clip, Dabo tampering?
And I'm just going to just say this. This is like there's tampering and then there's blatant tampering. You know, tampering 101 is when you're talking to kids who aren't in the portal. Tampering 201 is when you've already negotiated the deal with the kids not in the portal. Tampering 301 is when you got a kid who's gone in the portal, signed somewhere, moved there, gone to classes, and you're texting them while they're in class. That's like a whole nother level of tampering. And it's total hypocrisy because all this is going on while they, on the other side, are trying to fight their defensive end from going in the portal. They have accused publicly others of tampering with their roster and their players while they are over here tampering. All right, so this is just a really sad state of affairs, and it's, to me, we have a broken system. And if there are no consequences for tampering, then we have no rules and we have no governance. It's really just that simple. Okay?
There are rules, but there is no governance. There are no guardrails, rather. Period. And I have no problem with Dabo doing this. I really don't. And you do this if you're confident you've done things the right way, which obviously he is. Otherwise, you leave yourself vulnerable for, oh, well, you know about you know about that. Okay, think about Saban and Jimbo a few years ago. Okay? Remember how nasty that got? And Jimbo, somebody looking at his past. Don't make me act like Jimbo, but we all remember what he said. That almost got really bad until Sankey got involved. Now, my issue with this is that other coaches aren't stepping up to rally around Dabo. Maybe it's because they don't want people poking around their yard. Okay? That's what that sounds like to me. That's what it looks like to me. But other than that, I commend him for doing this. He had to, though. He had to. He has spoken out the loudest. He has spoken out the most. He has been the most adamant about the current system. Transfer portal, NIL, yada, yada. He's been that grumpy old man about it since basically all that became things. That's fine. It's his God-given right to speak out. It's his God-given right to run the program as he wants because they pay him to do it. Yep, you run it as you want, coach. It's how you want to be a developmental program. You go for it. And he has. Now, it hasn't worked out over the last few years, especially this year. That was this year's team, 2025 specifically, that was to be the team to validate the Dabo method. It didn't. It failed. It failed in a big way. Okay? But he still believes that's how you build a football team. That's how you run a program. And God bless him. I admire his conviction. And I admire the courage he had to express it. But to say it was poor form for him to do that, I think that's wrong. And that's what Paul Feinbaum did on WJOX in Birmingham yesterday when he joined Cole Kubelik and Greg McElroy. He said it was poor form. He said it's a bad look. I disagree. What do you think? Dave, please play the clip.
It emboldens Ole Miss people feeling, okay, our guys working hard. Our guys trying to do whatever it takes, whether it's in theory legal or not. And that's kind of where we are in college athletics, as you guys know. And then there's Dabo Swinney, who just does the wrong thing at the wrong time, looking more distant, more out of touch, more antiquated, more antediluvian than he has ever been. And for a guy that just finished an absolutely miserable season, it doesn't help him because he is years removed from a legitimate national championship contender.
1 minute.
Last year, being in the playoffs was more of an outlier than it was reality. Everybody knows Clemson started the season in the top 5 and ended up nowhere. And I just think it hurts him more than it has in the past. And that's a bad look for a guy that really still has support of a fan base because he has been one of the more remarkable coaches in changing a program's direction than anyone in modern history. But he just looks farther and farther away from ever getting Clemson to that moment again.
I disagree with all that. Just because you had a bad season, that doesn't mean you shouldn't defend yourself. That doesn't mean you shouldn't stand up for what you believe in. I disagree with Paul on that one. I've got some other thoughts. We'll share them on the other side. Figure out what we missed. Put a bow on this edition of the Halftime Show on 107.5.
I think you can go home now. For real.
Don't I have to tag out of the show?
No, you don't.
So we're done?
Yeah, you're done. Just timed right into it, so I gave you those times out to make it time right into the break.
I'll call Terry Ford now. I'm going to sign off, Dave. Are you sure?
I'm sure.
I appreciate working with you, brother. I'll see you soon.
All right, take care.